Namaste, Dandava Pranam. By the instruction and grace of our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Shripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj, we are here reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 3, the Status Quo, Chapter 19, Text 30. Deva Uchu Namo Namaste Kila Yagyatantave Stito Grihitamala Sattva Disyahatoyam Jagatam Arunturas Svatpada Bhaktya Vayam Ishinhivrita. The demigods addressed the Lord. All obeisances unto you. You are the enjoyer of all sacrifices, and you have assumed the form of a boar in pure goodness for the purpose of maintaining the world. Fortunately for us, this demon who is a torment to the worlds has been slain by you, and we too, O Lord, are now at ease in devotion to your lotus feet. Purport. The material world consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. But the spiritual world is pure goodness. It is said here that the form of the Lord is pure goodness, which means that it is not material. In the material world, there is no pure goodness. In the Bhagavatam, the stage of pure goodness is called Sattvam Vishuddham. Vishuddham means pure. In pure goodness, there is no contamination by the two inferior qualities, namely passion and ignorance. Therefore, the form of the boar in which the Lord appeared is nothing of the material world. There are many other forms of the Lord, but none of them belong to the material qualities. Such forms are non-different from the Vishnu form, and Vishnu is the enjoyer of all sacrifices. The sacrifices which are recommended in the Vedas are meant to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In ignorance only, people try to satisfy many other agents, but the real purpose of life is to satisfy the Supreme Lord Vishnu. All sacrifices are meant to please the Supreme Lord. The living entities who know this perfectly well are called demigods, godly, or almost God. Since the living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, it is his duty to serve the Lord and please him. The demigods are all attached to the personality of Godhead, and for their pleasure, the demon who was a source of trouble to the world was killed. Purified life is meant to please the Lord, and all sacrifices performed in purified life are called Krishna consciousness. This Krishna consciousness is developed by devotional service, as clearly mentioned here. Text 31. Maitreya uvacha evam Hiraṇyākṣam asahya vikramam sasadayit vaharir adi shukara jaghama lokam svam akanditotsavam samidita pushkara vishtaradi bihi. Sri Maitreya continued. After thus killing the most formidable demon Hiraṇyākṣa, the Supreme Lord Hare, the origin of the boar species, returned to his own abode, where there is always an uninterrupted festival. The Lord was praised by all the demigods headed by Brahma. Purport. The Lord is spoken of herewith as the origin of the boar species. As stated in the Vedanta Sutra 1.1.2, the absolute truth is the origin of everything. Therefore, it is to be understood that all 8,400,000 species of bodily forms originate from the Lord, who is always Adi, or the beginning. Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna addresses the Lord as Adyam, or the original. Similarly, in the Brahma Samhita, the Lord is addressed as Adi Purusha, the original person. Indeed, in the Bhagavad Gita 10.8, the Lord himself declares Mata Sarvam Pravarta. From me, everything proceeds. In this situation, the Lord assumed the shape of a boar to kill the demon Hiraṇyākṣa and pick up the earth from the Garbha ocean. Thus he became Adi Shukara, the original boar. In the material world, a boar or pig is considered most abominable, but the Adi Shukara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was not treated as an ordinary boar. Even Lord Brahma and the other demigods praised the Lord's form as a boar. This verse confirms the statement of Bhagavad Gita that the Lord appears as he is from his transcendental abode for the sake of killing miscreants and saving the devotees. By killing the demon Hiraṇyākṣa, he fulfilled his promise to kill the demons and always protect the demigods headed by Brahma. The statement that the Lord returned to his own abode indicates that he has his own particular transcendental residence. Since he is full of all energies, he is all pervasive in spite of his residing in Goloka Vrindavan, just as the sun, although situated in a particular place within the universe, is present by its sunshine throughout the universe. Although the Lord has his particular abode in which to reside, he is all pervasive. The impersonalists accept one aspect of the Lord's features, the all-pervasive aspect, but they cannot understand his localized situation in his transcendental abode, where he always engages in fully transcendental pastimes. Especially mentioned in this verse is the word Akanditotsavam. Utsava means pleasure. Whenever some function takes place to express happiness, it is called an utsava. Utsava, the expression of complete happiness, is always present in the Vaikuntha Lokas, the abode of the Lord, who is worshipable even by demigods like Brahma, to say nothing of other less important entities such as human beings. The Lord descends from his abode to this world, and therefore he is called Avatar, which means one who descends. Sometimes Avatar is understood to refer to an incarnation who assumes a material form of flesh and bone, but actually Avatar refers to one who descends from higher regions. The Lord's abode is situated far above this material sky, and he descends from that higher position, thus he is called Avatar. 32. Mayayatanuktam avadite Hare Vrtavatarasya Sumitra Chistitam Yata Hiraṇyākṣa Udara Vikramo Mahamrade Kridana Vanniraktaha. Maitreya continued, "My dear Vidura, I have explained to you the personality of Godhead's coming down as the boar incarnation and killing in a great fight a demon of unprecedented prowess as if he were just a plaything. This has been narrated by me as I heard it from my predecessor, spiritual master." Purport. Here the sage Maitreya admits that he explained the incident of the killing of Hiraṇyākṣa by the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a straight narration. He did not manufacture anything or add interpretation, but explained whatever he had heard from his spiritual master. Thus he had accepted as bona fide the system of parampara, or receiving the transcendental message in disciplic succession. Unless received by this bona fide process of hearing from a spiritual master, the statement of an acharya or preceptor cannot be valid. It is also stated here that although the demon Hiraṇyākṣa was unlimited in prowess, he was just like a doll for the Lord. A child breaks so many dolls without real endeavor. Similarly, although a demon may be very powerful and extraordinary in the eyes of an ordinary man in this material world, to the Lord, killing such a demon is no difficulty. He can kill millions of demons as simply as a child plays with dolls and breaks them. 33. Stuta uvacha iti kausara vakyatam ashrutya Bhagavat katam Chatanandam param lebe Mahabhagavato dvija. Sri Sutta Goswami continued, "My dear Brahmana, Shakta, Vidura, the great devotee of the Lord, achieved transcendental bliss by hearing the narration of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the authoritative source of the sage Kosarava, or Maitreya, and he was very pleased. Purport. If anyone wants to derive transcendental pleasure by hearing the pastimes of the Lord, he must hear from the authoritative source, as explained here. Maitreya heard the narration from his bona fide spiritual master, and Vidura also heard from Maitreya. One becomes an authority simply by presenting whatever he has heard from his spiritual master, and one who does not accept the bona fide spiritual master cannot be an authority. This is clearly explained here. If one wants to have transcendental pleasure, he must find a person with authority. It is also stated in Bhagavatam that simply by hearing from an authoritative source with the ear and the heart, one can relish the pastimes of the Lord. Otherwise, it is not possible. Sanatana Goswami, therefore, has especially warned that one should not hear anything about the personality of the Lord from the lips of a non-devotee. Non-devotees are considered to be like serpents. As milk is poisoned by a serpent's touch, so, although the narration of the pastimes of the Lord is as pure as milk, when administered by a serpent-like non-devotee, it becomes poisonous. Not only does it have no effect in transcendental pleasure, but it is dangerous also. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has warned that no description of the pastimes of the Lord should be heard from the Mayavad or impersonalist school. He has clearly said, Mayavadi Basya Sunile Haya Sarva Nasa. If anyone hears the Mayavadi's interpretation of the pastimes of the Lord, or their interpretation of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, or any other Vedic literature, he is doomed. Once one is associated with impersonalists, he can never understand the personal feature of the Lord and his transcendental pastimes. Sutta Goswami, speaking to the sages headed by Sanaka, and therefore Sutta Goswami was speaking to the sages headed by Sanaka, and therefore he addressed them in this verse as Dvija, twice more. The sages assembled in Namasharanya hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Sutta Goswami were all Brahmanas, but to acquire the qualification of a Brahmana is not everything. Merely to be twice born is not perfection. Perfection is attained when one hears the pastimes and activities of the Lord from a bona fide source. Text 34. Anyesham punya slokanam udhamayasa samsatam upashrutya bhavenmodha srivatsan kasya kimpuna. What to speak of hearing the pastimes of the Lord, whose chest is marked with Srivatsa? People may take transcendental pleasure even hearing of the works and deeds of the devotees, whose fame is immortal. Purport. Bhagavatam literally means the pastimes of the Lord and the Lord's devotees. For example, there are pastimes of Lord Krishna and narrations of devotees like Prahlad, Dhruva, Maharaj, and Ambarish. Both pastimes pertain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead because the devotees' pastimes are in relation with it. The Mahabharata, for example, the history of the Pandavas and their activities, is sacred because the Pandavas had a direct relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. 35. Yogajendram jasagrastam dhyayantam charanam bhujam proshantinam karanunam kritrato mochaya drutam. The personality of God had delivered the king of the elephants, who was attacked by an alligator and who meditated upon the lotus feet of the Lord. At that time, the female elephants who accompanied him were crying, and the Lord saved them from impending danger. The example of the elephant in danger, purport. The example of the elephant in danger who is saved by the Supreme Lord is especially cited here, because even if one is an animal, he can approach the personality of Godhead in devotional service, whereas even a demigod cannot approach the Supreme Person unless he is a devotee. 36. Tam sukaradyam rejubir ananya sharanar nabi kritagya kona seveta durharadyam asadubi. What grateful soul is there who would not render his loving service to such a great master as the personality of Godhead? The Lord can be easily pleased by spotless devotees who resort exclusively to him for protection, though the unrighteous man finds it difficult to propitiate him. Every living entity, especially persons in the human race, must feel grateful for the benedictions offered by the grace of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, anyone with a simple heart of gratefulness must be Krishna conscious and offer devotional service to the Lord. Those who are actually thieves and rogues do not recognize or acknowledge the benedictions offered to them by the Supreme Lord, and they cannot render him devotional service. Ungrateful persons are those who do not understand how much benefit they are deriving by the arrangement of the Lord. They enjoy the sunshine and moonshine, and they get water free of charge, yet they do not feel grateful, but simply go on enjoying these gifts of the Lord. Therefore, they must be called thieves and rogues. Text 37. Yovai Hiraṇyākṣa vadham mahadbhutam vikrikarana shukaratmana Shrinoti gayatyanu modate nijasa vimuchyate brahma vadhad apidvija. O Brahmanas, anyone who hears, chants, or takes pleasure in the wonderful narration of the killing of the Hiraṇyākṣa demon by the Lord, who appeared as the first boar in order to deliver the world, is at once relieved of the results of sinful activities, even the killing of a Brahmana. Purport. Since the personality of Godhead is in the absolute position, there is no difference between his pastimes and his personality. Anyone who hears about the pastimes of the Lord associates with the Lord directly, and one who associates directly with the Lord is certainly freed from all sinful activities, even to the extent of the killing of a Brahmana, which is considered the most sinful activity in the material world. One should be very eager to hear about the activities of the Lord from the bona fide source, the pure devotee. If one simply gives oral reception to the narration and accepts the glories of the Lord, then he is qualified. The impersonalist philosophers cannot understand the activities of the Lord. They think that all his activities are Maya, therefore they are called Mayavadis. Since everything to them is Maya, these narrations are not for them. Some impersonalists are reluctant to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, although many of them are now taking an interest in it just for monetary gain. Actually, however, they have no faith. On the contrary, they describe it in their own way. We should therefore not hear from the Mayavadis. We have to hear from Sutta Goswami or Maitreya, who actually present the narrations as they are, and only then can we relish the pastimes of the Lord. Otherwise, the effects on the neophyte audience will be poisonous. Text 38. Etan mahapunyam alam pravitram Danyam yasashyam padam ayur ashisham Pranendriyanam yudhi saryavardhanam Narayanonte gatir angashrinvatam. This most sacred narrative confers extraordinary merit, wealth, fame, longevity, and all the objects of one's desire. On the field of battle, it promotes the strength of one's vital organs, and organs of action. One who listens to it at the last moment of his life is transferred to the supreme abode of the Lord. O dear Sanaka. Purport. Devotees are generally attracted by the narratives of the pastimes of the Lord, and even though they do not prosecute austerities or meditation, this very process of hearing attentively about the pastimes of the Lord will endow them with innumerable benefits such as wealth, fame, longevity, and other desirable aims of life. If one continues to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, which is full of narratives of the pastimes of the Lord, at the end of this life, one is sure to be transferred to the eternal transcendental abode of the Lord. Thus, hearers are benefited both ultimately and for as long as they are in the material world. That is the supreme sublime result of engaging in devotional service. The beginning of devotional service is to spare some time and listen to Srimad Bhagavatam from the right source. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also recommended 5 items of devotional service, namely to serve the devotees of the Lord, to chant Hare Krishna, to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, to worship the deity of the Lord, and to live in a place of pilgrimage. Just performing these 5 activities can deliver one from the miserable condition of material life. Thus end the purport, the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 3rd canto, 19th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Killing of the Demon Hiraṇyākṣa. Thus ends our reading for today. We will continue from chapter 20 on Friday. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Shripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, Srila Acharya Dev, Srila Shanta Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Rupa Nuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Glories to the assembled devotees, our glories to the worldwide devotees, Sama Bhakti Veda Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Navadut Dham Ki Jai, Nishangapali Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Dham Ki Jai, Baladev Subhadra Jagannath Ju Ki Jai. Mayi Yamuna Mayi Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Giri Gupta Govardhan Dham Ki Jai, Sham Kund Radha Kund Ki Jai, Tosi Devi Bhakti Devi Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Jai Hare, Sankirtan Yagi Ki Jai, Scientific Sankirtan Yagi Ki Jai, Princeton Bhakti Vedanta Institute Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Institute Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Jai Shrimati Uma Devi Dasi Ki Jai.
Sripad Krishna Keshav Prabhu Ji Ki Jai. Dandavat.
My Dandavat pranams to you, Didi. Hari Bol.